Hiber-Nation 18. Grizzly's Growls presents Stories from the Hiber-Nation. A handy guide for beggars, especially those of the poetic fraternity, by Vachel Lindsay. Part 2. A Mendicant Pilgrimage in the East. The Town of American Visions, Springfield, Illinois. Is it for naught that where the tired crowds see only a place for trade, a teeming square, doors of high portent open unto me, carved with great eagles and with hawthorns rare? Doors, I proclaim, for there are rooms forgot, riped through the eons by the good and wise, walls set with art's own pearl and amethyst, angel-wrought hangings there, and heaven-hued dyes, dazzling the eye of faith, the hope-filled heart, rooms rich in records of old deeds sublime, books that hold garnered harvests of far lands, pictures that tableau man's triumphant climb, statues so white, so counterfeiting life, bronze so ennobled, so with glory fraught, that the tired eyes must weep with joy to see, and the tired mind in beauty's net be caught. Come enter there and meet tomorrow's man, communing with him softly, day by day. Ah, the deep vistas he reveals, the dream of angel bands in infinite array. Bright angel bands that dance in paths of earth, when our despairs are gone, long overpast, when men and maidens give fair hearts to Christ, and white streets flame in righteous peace at last. On being entertained one evening by college boys, I walked across the bridge from New Jersey into eastern Pennsylvania one afternoon. I discovered there was a college at the top of the hill. In exchange for a lecture on 26 great men, based on a poem of the same theme that I carried with me, the boys entertained me that night. They did not pay much attention to the lecture. Immediately before and after was a yell carnival. There was to be a game next day. They were cheering the team and the coach with elaborate reiteration. All was astir. But for all this, the boys spoke to me gently, gave me the privileges of the table, the bathroom, the dormitory. The president of the YMCA lent me a clean suit of pajamas. He and two other young fellows delighted my vain soul by keeping me up late, reciting all the poems I knew. I record these things for the sake of recording one thing more: the extraordinary impression of buoyancy that came from that school. It was inspiring to a degree, a draught of the gods. Coming into that place not far from the center of hard-faced Eastontown, I realized for the first time what sheltered, nurtured boy America was like, and what wonders may lie beneath the roofs of our cities. That which men hail as king. Would I might arouse the Caesar in you all, that which men hail as king, and bow them down, till you are crowned, or you refuse the crown. Would I might wake the valor and the pride, the eagle soul with which he soared and died, entering grandly then the fearful grave. God help us build the world like master men. God help us to be brave. Near Shikshini, the story of the hospitality of a promising family in a coal mining region. Part 1. Leaving New Jersey, I kept from all contact with money and was consequently turning over in memory many delicious adventures among the Pennsylvania German farmers. After crossing that lonely, lovely plateau called Pocono Mountain, I descended abruptly into Wilkes-Barre by a length of steep automobile road called Giant Despair. It was a Sunday noon in May. Wilkes-Barre was a mixture of Sabbath calm and the smoke of torment that ascendeth forever. One passed pious faces, too clean, sooty faces, too restless. I hurried through, hoping for more German farmers beyond. But King Coal had conspired against the traveler and would not let him go. The further west I walked, the thicker the squalor and slag heaps, and the presence of St. Francis seemed withdrawn from me, though I had been faithful in my fashion. King Coal is a boaster. He says he furnishes food for all the engines of the earth. He says he is the maker of steam. He says steam is the 20th century. He holds that an infinite number of black holes in the ground is a blessing. Well, he may say what he likes, but he has not excused himself to me. He blasts the landscape. Never do humans drink so hard to forget their sorrow as in the courtyards of this monarch. To dig in a mine makes men reckless. To own one makes them tormentors. I had double reason for hurrying on. My rules as a mendicant afoot were against cities and railroads. I flattered myself I was called and sent to the agricultural laborer. When the land grew less black and less inhabited, I mistakenly rejoiced, assuming I should soon strike the valleys where grain is sown and garnered. Yet the king was following me still, like a great mole underground. There was no coal on the surface. The land was rusty red and ashen gray, as though blasted by the torch of a cyclops, and only yesterday cooled by the rain. The best grain that could have been scattered among such rocks with the hope of a crop was a seed of dragon's teeth. How long the desolation continued! Toward the end of the day, in the midst of the nothingness, I came upon a saloon full of human creatures roaring drunk. Otherwise, there was not so much as a shed in sight. 4 vilely dirty little girls came down the steps carrying beer. One of them, too intoxicated for her errand, entrusted her can to her companions. They preceded me toward the smoke-veiled sun by a highway growing black again with the footprints of the king. Now there was a deafening explosion. I sat down on a rock, examining myself to see if I was still alive. And the children pattered on. My start seemed to amuse them immensely. I followed toward the new Civil War, or whatever it was. Well, just over the crest and around the corner, I encountered the king's never-varying insignia, the double row of company houses. Every dwelling was as eternally and uniformly damned as its neighbor, making the eyes ache standing foursquare in the presence of the insulted daylight. Every porch and railing was jigsawed in the same ruthless way. Every front yard was grassless. Everything was made of wood, yet seemed made of iron, so black it was. So long had it stood in the wasting weather, so steadily had it resisted the dynamite now shaking the earth. There they stood, 30 houses to the left, 30 to the right, with what you might call a street between, whose ruts were seemingly cut by the treasure chariots of the Bridgestone princes of the netherworld. 2/3 of the way through, several young miners were exploding giant powder. As I approached, I saw another was loading his pistol with ball cartridges and shooting over the hills at the sun. He did not put it out. The group of children with the beer served these knights of dynamite, holding up the cans for them to drink. The little cup-bearers were given pennies. They scurried home. By their eyes and queer speech, I guessed that these children were Poles or of some other race from Eastern Europe. I guessed the same about the men celebrating. Every porch on both sides of that street held some heavy-headed creatures from presumably the same foreign parts. They were, no doubt, good citizens after their peculiar fashion, but with countenances I could not read. Though the next explosion seemed to jolt the earth out of its orbit, they merely blinked. I said to myself, well, this is not the 4th of July, therefore it must be the anniversary of the day when freedom shrieked and Kosciuszko fell. I reached the end of the street, nothing beyond but a hollow of hills and a dubious river, enclosing a new Tophet that I learned afterwards was Shikshini. It was late. I wanted to get beyond to the green fields. I zigzagged across that end of the street to folk on the front porches that I thought were Americans. Each time I vainly attempted to conversation with some dumb John Sobieski in Sunday clothes. I wondered what were the Polish words for bread, shelter, and dead broke. Thanks for listening to Stories from the Hiber-Nation. Comment on the website at grizzly.libsyn.com. This program is sponsored by donations from people like you and is released with a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.